This task asks us to create a method that can take a string, which would be in the form of a sentence, and determine the total of the various integer values that can be found in that sentence. It's rather a challenge, so really we need to try and break the program down into smaller, more manageable chunks. Now the first thing we need to do is to create a method. Well, the method, as we know, needs to return an integer. We've got to make it static because we're working in the main class and we're calling it from a static method. We'll give it a name, total of int in sentence, and it's going to take a string. We need to break this problem down. Okay, so firstly we need to identify the various words in the sentence. So we can break sentence into words. Once we've got that sentence, we probably want to check each word and see if it has a value. Check each word for a value and sum them up. We're gonna, in order to make our code nice and clean and easy to read, we can actually put some of these into methods. So the breaking of a sentence into words could be done in the form of a method. So given our sentences are going to be of varying lengths, it probably makes sense to have some sort of flexible collection. So an array list would work quite well for that. So we could have a method that returns an array list of strings. Just add that import statement. Okay, so breaking a sentence into word can be done by calling that method out. We haven't finished it, but we can say something like array list string words equals, and we can call words from sentence and pass our sentence into that. Okay, we can check each word for a value. So we could do for a for loop. For each, we're looking at strings. And let's just put that comment in there inside the loop for now. If it's got a value, we'll have it running total, so we can create a running total. And at the end of this, we're going to return the total. Just put that comment in there as well. Okay, let's try and solve this problem here. Okay, now there are methods that we could use available in Java, but because we're learning, we'll do it the manual way. We essentially need to go through, and we know that words are split up by spaces. So we could build a string, and every time we know we've got to the end of a word, we could add that string to our array. So we need the array to put everything in. And then we just need to iterate through every character in our sentence. So we can do that. We know how long a sentence is because we can get its length. So we can create a for loop. We're going to go up to but not including the length of the sentence. And we can add that to a temporary variable. Okay. Now, in order to be able to modify the temporary variable, and so it maintains the letters between each loop, we need to declare it outside the loop. So we can say something like string current word. We could use an array of characters, but the current word will do. Obviously that will start off as an empty string. So we can start off and we can say if the first character, which is our sentence, we can use our char at, and we can use I to get the character at that position in the sentence. So if that is a space, then we know we've reached the end of a word, and we can add the current word can be added to our words array, or our words array list. We then need to specify that our current word no longer has any values, any characters in it. But if we've not reached that, we can continue to add that character to the current word. So we can say current word plus equals sentence.charat and use I. So that should solve the problem. Finally, we need to check if we've got to the end. So obviously if the last character is not a space, we wouldn't be adding that final word to our array. Okay, so we want to make sure that works. So we could check that if we've done that, if I, which is our index, is equal to the last value, so that's the length minus 1, then we know we've got to the end, and we can add the current word can be added. In fact, we can use this exact logic here to the array. So that should get every sentence and split it into an array of words. We just need to return that words. Okay, so breaking down the problem into smaller bits. In an ideal world, we'd write a unit test for this, but that's not the purpose of this walkthrough, so we'll leave that for now. If we have any errors, we can obviously add a unit test later. So we now need to check each word and see if it's got a value. Okay, so we can try and parse our string as an integer. So we could say something like int word value, and we can use the integer class, and it has a static method called parseInt. We're working in base 10, so we don't need to supply radix, and we can parse that word. Okay. Now, if we were to look at parseInt, we'd find that it actually could throw an exception. Okay, we'll leave that for now, and we'll run it and see what happens. Okay, so we've got our word value. If our word value is not equal to 0, then we can add that to the sum total. So we can say total plus equals word value. And in fact, actually, it doesn't really matter if it is 0, so we can actually remove that if statement and simply do that anyway. Let's just test it. Here's our sentence. So let's declare that as a string. And then we will call the total of ints in sentence with our sentence. We could have typed the string literal in there, and we'll just print that out. Okay. Now if we run it, we will see what happens. Okay, and we're getting an exception. So we mentioned earlier that if a word doesn't contain isn't numeric, then we will need to handle that. So we've got a couple of ways of doing things. A simpler but not necessarily the most efficient approach, but it is one we're going to take today, is just to try this conversion and then catch an exception if it's thrown. Okay. A better approach might be to actually check each character in the word and see if it's numeric. It's a bit more effort, but it would maybe potentially be slightly quicker. But we'll put it in a try catch block for now. So we can say try, and we'll try this here. If not, we can catch the exception. I'll call it EX for now. We don't actually need to do anything. And that's potentially why doing a proper check to see if all the values are numeric, we can check the character values and check if each character is within a range. That would work. It would be a better approach, and that's something you might want to consider trying. So obviously, if we try that, if it does work, we then want to add its value in here. Okay. and we've already got our sum up because our summing up is happening there, so we can take that comment away. And we can run our code again and see if that works. Okay, there we go, there are 21 animals. We can verify that. We've got 12 plus 2 is 14, plus 3 is 17, plus 4 is 21. And our application is complete.